It's been a wild summer at Ibrox. The transfer window has been nothing short of eventful for Rangers, with plenty of ins and outs shaping the look of Russell Martin's squad. But amid all the movement, one particular situation is beginning to capture more and more attention, and it might just force the club into making a massive decision before the window slams shut. A fresh and frankly strange bid has now thrown the future of a key forward into serious doubt. And if you thought things were about to quiet down in Govan, think again. Let's start with the Champions League. Rangers have a huge European night ahead of them. And while the spotlight should be firmly on that, there's now a heavy cloud of uncertainty hanging over one of their main attacking weapons. Cyril Desires, who was once on Club Brugge's radar not once but twice, could be missing. In action tonight due to injury. That alone would be a big enough headache for Russell Martin. But when you add in a transfer offer for another star forward just days before the deadline, you've got a full-blown saga on your hands. Now Desires is opened up in the Belgian press, confirming that Club Brugge, Rangers Champions League opponents, previously tried to bring him back to the Jupiler Pro League. They approached him twice, once when Ivan Leko was managing the team and again during his spell with Cremonese. Neither deal came to fruition, but the fact that Brugge were interested enough to come back a second time tells you everything about his value on the continental stage. And in a bit of a twist, Dessers admits he hasn't shut the door on a return to Belgium. In fact, he even mentioned that he recently bought a house in Mechelen and has a few clubs in the region that he holds in high regard. When asked about possibly playing for KV Mechelen, he responded with that classic never say never kind of tone. His wife and in-laws wouldn't mind, he said, although his career path will ultimately dictate his next move. Subtle hints, but revealing nonetheless. But for now, the focus remains on tonight's European showdown. Rangers face Brugge at Ibrox in the first leg of the Champions League playoff, and despite the questions around his fitness, Desires is desperate to play his part. Russell Martin called it touch and go, saying the striker had responded well to treatment after picking up an injury against Victoria Plzen. He's not ruled out, but it'll be a late call. If he doesn't make it, he's expected to be ready for the weekend or next week at the latest. That's a bit of a relief, but let's be honest, Rangers need him now more than ever. This match is crucial. Desires knows it too. He's under no illusions about the scale of the task ahead. He admitted that Club Brugge are the favorites, highlighting their Champions League pedigree. But he also made it clear that Rangers won't just roll over. He pushed back on the idea that the Scottish League is a cakewalk, reminding everyone that Rangers reached the Europa League quarterfinals last season and were inches away from making the semis. That kind of pedigree counts. Desires believes Ibrox can once again be a fortress on European nights, and there's a quiet confidence within the squad that they can cause an upset. And while that European dream remains alive back on the domestic front, Rangers are juggling another storm. Out of nowhere, League One side Lille have come in with what can only be described as a bizarre offer for striker Hamza Igamani. With just 2 weeks left in the window, Lille tried to strike a loan deal for the Moroccan forward without even offering a loan fee. No option to buy, no obligation, just a straight-up loan. And as you'd expect, Rangers shut that down immediately. They laughed it off. It's understood that Lille have been tracking Egamane all summer, but the talks haven't gone anywhere meaningful. If they want to get serious, they'll need to come back with a proper bid, and a substantial one at that. The young forward has only been in Glasgow for a year after arriving from AS Rabat, but he hit the ground running with 16 goals in his first campaign. That kind of form doesn't go unnoticed. Now, it's being reported across Europe that Igamane is open to the move, whether that's about career progression, finances, or something else entirely. It adds a layer of complexity for Rangers. They don't want to lose a player of his profile without significant compensation. It's believed it would take an 8-figure offer to even get them to the table. That said, it's not all chaos. Igamani returned to action at the weekend in the Premier Sports Cup, coming off the bench as Rangers defeated Alloa Athletic. It was a laboured win, 4-2 on the night, but it gave fans a glimpse of what could be as he lined up alongside summer signing Helio Asgard. The chemistry wasn't instant, but the flashes were there. With Desires possibly sidelined, Igamane could now be in line to start against Bruges. Danilo is also in the mix, giving Russell Martin a big decision to make up top. Speaking of Martin, let's talk about the pressure building around him. His time at Ibrox has not started the way anyone would have hoped. 2 games into the Scottish Premiership season, and Rangers have already dropped points against Dundee and Motherwell. Not exactly the kind of start that inspires title-winning confidence. The cup win over Alloa didn't do much to ease concerns either. Despite the scoreline, the performance was sluggish, disjointed, and at times downright frustrating. It's no secret that Martin's appointment didn't thrill everyone. After a long search that included names like Davide Ancelotti, the board ultimately handed the reins to a former Ibrox defender whose last job ended in relegation from the English Championship. There was immediate skepticism, and now, with Celtic already pulling ahead in the league, the doubters are growing louder. The looming Old Firm derby at the end of August has taken on even greater significance, not just for the points, but for Martin's own credibility in the role. Pundits are already warning that a loss to Celtic could trigger a full-blown crisis. One well-known voice in Scottish football even said that defeat would make Martin's position untenable in the eyes of many supporters. That might sound dramatic, but in Glasgow, it doesn't take much to flip the mood. And if Celtic were to extend their lead to double digits before September, the calls for change would be deafening. 13 league titles in the last 14 seasons for Celtic have left Rangers fans starved for success, and with that comes a zero-tolerance policy for false dawns. Martin's possession-heavy style of play has drawn criticism already. It's methodical, patient, but also prone to being predictable. His tenure at Southampton was marred by similar issues. Good intentions, but poor execution under pressure. The board insists he's the man for the long-term vision, especially after a summer rebuild that saw sweeping changes to the squad. But patience isn't exactly a luxury Rangers fans are willing to grant right now. The pressure is mounting, and make no mistake, the next few weeks could define the season. Between Champions League qualifiers, a heated domestic schedule, and that seismic Old Firm clash, there's no room for slip-ups. Martin knows it, the board knows it, and every fan inside Ibrox feels it. What makes this moment even more intense is how quickly the optimism of pre-season has evaporated. Only weeks ago, the narrative was one of new beginnings. A new manager, a reshaped squad, fresh signings, and talk of reclaiming dominance both domestically and in Europe. But football in Glasgow doesn't wait around. There's no grace period here, and even the smallest slip can spiral into something far more serious. With Celtic already sitting 4 points clear, the early wobble has hit harder than it might have elsewhere. And while some fans are willing to show patience, there's a growing section of the support beginning to ask real questions. It's not just about the points that have been dropped. It's about the manner of the performances. Against Dundee, Rangers looked flat, short on ideas. Against Motherwell, there was urgency, but little cohesion. These are games that title challengers should be dominating. And yet under Martin, the team has looked disjointed and lacking bite in key moments. That might change. New managers need time. But in Scotland, and especially at Rangers, time is a currency that runs out quickly, particularly when the other side of the city is already hitting their stride. That's why this upcoming Champions League fixture carries so much weight, not just because of what it means financially or reputationally, but because of the mood it could set moving forward. A big European night at Ibrox has always had the power to lift spirits and shift momentum. A strong performance against Club Brugge could steady the ship and buy Martin the breathing space he desperately needs. On the other hand, another limp display in front of a packed home crowd could only deepen the doubts and feed into the frustration building in the stands. The dressing room itself remains largely united, at least publicly. Players like Desires have spoken confidently about the group spirit and their belief in Martin's methods. But belief without results only gets you so far. The return of Igor Mena and the emergence of new signings like Asgard give the manager more options up front. But the chemistry is still a work in progress. There's a sense that the pieces are there, but the puzzle hasn't been put together yet. And with the fixture list offering little respite, they need to start clicking fast. There's also the question of leadership. With the departure of several senior figures over the summer, the dressing room dynamic has changed significantly. Who steps up in moments of adversity? Who grabs the game by the scruff of the Neck when things aren't going to plan? That kind of leadership is vital, especially in a squad where many of the new arrivals are still finding their feet in Scottish football. Martin has spoken about developing leaders, but in matches like the one coming up, Rangers need leaders who are ready now. And let's not forget the wider picture. This season was always going to be a test of the club's new era. With the involvement of the 49ers Enterprises Consortium, expectations were high that a modern, ambitious strategy would follow. Fans, we're promised a club ready to challenge on every front. Not just with spending, but with smarter recruitment, better infrastructure, and a clear identity on the pitch. But so far, the execution has felt clunky. The transfer window has brought talent, yes, but also questions about whether this squad is genuinely better equipped to push Celtic across the full campaign. One of the biggest criticisms of Rangers in recent years has been inconsistency. Big wins in Europe have often been followed by frustrating domestic slip-ups. For all the progress made on the continental stage, it's the bread and butter of the Scottish Premiership that ultimately defines seasons. That's where titles are won or lost. Martin may point to his long-term vision, but fans aren't interested in theoretical progress. They want wins. They want performances that show Rangers are closing the gap, not watching it grow. And while it may feel early in the season to be drawing such stark conclusions, this is the reality of football in Glasgow. The pressure doesn't build gradually. It arrives all at once. Every match matters. Every result carries meaning. The Old Firm derby isn't just a football match. It's a referendum on the direction of the club. Lose it, and the noise around Martin's future will grow louder. Win it, and suddenly the narrative shifts. Suddenly belief is restored. For Martin, this is the ultimate balancing act. He must manage a squad still bedding in while delivering the kind of results that buy him time to implement his ideas. He has to prove to fans, players, and the board that his methods can work not just in theory, but under pressure, in a white-hot glare of Ibrox with tens of thousands of eyes demanding proof. It's not an easy task, but then again, no one ever said managing Rangers would be. On the training ground, sources say the mood remains focused. The players are aware of the scrutiny but are said to be backing Martin's vision. Tactical sessions have been intense, with an emphasis on movement and control in midfield, areas where Rangers have struggled to dominate so far this season. The aim is to improve tempo and transition play, two areas that can make all the difference against top European opposition. But training ground confidence has to translate into matchday performances, and so far, that's been inconsistent. Looking ahead, much will depend on how Martin handles his squad during this crucial stretch. Rotation will be key, especially with European qualifiers and league matches stacked back-to-back. The challenge will be maintaining a strong starting 11 while managing fitness levels and keeping players mentally fresh. It's a juggling act that every manager faces, but with the current tension, the margin for error is paper thin. In terms of the forward line, the situation is still evolving. The club's response to Lille's bid for Igamene was swift, but there's every chance the French side will return with an improved offer. The player's openness to the move only adds to the uncertainty. If he does push for a departure, Rangers will need to react quickly. Not just to replace his goals, but to avoid the destabilizing effect of losing a key player at a crucial time. Fans will be watching closely. They'll expect the club to hold firm unless the money is right and a replacement is lined up. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, the board continues to project calm. Publicly, there's been no indication that Martin's job is under threat. The messaging has been consistent. He's the man to lead this team forward, but that confidence has a shelf life. If results don't improve, especially in the high-stakes matches on the horizon, the pressure will shift from the dugout to the director's box. After all, they made the decision to hire Martin. They passed on other candidates. They backed him in the market. Now, it's their judgment that's under the microscope. In a city like Glasgow, moments of crisis can also be moments of opportunity. If Martin can steady the ship, if he can guide Rangers past Brugge and close the gap in the league, the story changes. The doubts give way to belief. The critics fall silent, at least for a while. But none of that happens by accident. It takes results, guts, and a team that's willing to fight for every inch on the pitch. So here we are, on the brink. The next few matches will tell us everything we need to know about Martin, about his squad, about whether this is just another false dawn or the beginning of something real. One thing's for sure, at Ibrox the stakes have rarely been higher. And for Russell Martin, the time to prove himself is now. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to get all the exclusive news about Rangers FC. Don't overlook any details about your beloved team. It's crucial for Rangers FC fans. Joao Felix's Rangers, that is the whisper running through pubs, terraces, and every hidden corner of Scottish football chatter tonight, with supporters pinching themselves to believe what has been murmured so insistently that it almost feels undeniable. A name long associated with glamour clubs of Iberia and beyond, Joao Felix has been suddenly, stunningly linked not just in speculation, but in bold proclamation with the blue half of Glasgow. Some say the papers have been prepared, the handshake has been sealed, and all that awaits is the grand unveiling that could redefine how the Scottish Premiership views itself on the global stage. Rangers fans who only yesterday wondered if such caliber belongs solely to La Liga or the Champions League elite are now daydreaming about him donning the royal blue, stepping out at Ibrox and bringing artistry, dribbling, and continental shine to cold nights that so often demanded grit before glamour. The story has the feeling of a rumor swirling out of control, yet it grows with each hour, fueled by hints, innuendo, and knowing nods from sources who smile but refuse to outright deny what would once have been unthinkable. Joao Felix at Rangers, imagine the headlines. The shirt sold, the defenders unsettled. The tale only deepens when voices close to the dressing room murmur of players already reacting. Excitement mingled with disbelief. How does one of Europe's brightest stars land in Glasgow, bypassing the usual path toward English giants or Spanish royalty? The explanation, whispered in hushed tones, suggests a mixture of ambition, opportunity, and perhaps an audacious promise from Rangers board that this project is no longer about simply dominating domestically, but about commanding respect continentally. Supporters walking down Paisley Road West have already been overheard speculating about through balls, about how Joao Felix might link with the current front line, and about the sudden transformation of Rangers from a determined challenger into a genuine European conversation starter. Journalists are scrambling, agents are coy, and rival fans are stunned into nervous laughter that feels more like fear. Celtic supporters, never far from the dialogue, question the credibility of such talk, but deep down know that even the whisper is unsettling. If this coup is true, the balance of Scottish football would tilt dramatically. Not just on the pitch, but in the perception of where the Premiership belongs on the footballing map. Joao Felix could be more than a signing. He could be a statement, carved into the history of Rangers Football Club. What lingers in the minds of those dissecting the possibility is the memory of past glamour arrivals in Scotland, fleeting but unforgettable, and how they raised the standard of play. Yet never has a name of this weight, this potential, this ongoing relevance in European football been tied to Rangers with such insistence. Supporters lean across bar tables, comparing Joao Felix's touch to Gascoigne's magic, whispering that this might be the moment the club proves again that it can attract the game's biggest names. There is almost a folklore tone in how it spreads. Messages forwarded on phones, a cousin swearing he saw a private jet touch down, a friend of a friend spotting a figure resembling the Portuguese forward near the Clyde. The rumor grows stronger because no one in authority has dared to dismiss it outright, leaving room for hope to blossom into belief. For the faithful, the prospect is intoxicating. Not simply because of the skill Joao Felix brings, but because it suggests Rangers is willing to dream on a scale few thought realistic in Scottish football's current era. Such a dream, if made real, would echo through every stadium in the land. Across social media, the chatter has reached fever pitch, with edited images of Joao Felix in blue kits shared thousands of times, and mock press conference banners already circulating as though the deal were not just done but celebrated. Fans argue over possible formations, with tactical diagrams drawn late at night suggesting how he could slot behind the striker or drift wide to torment fullbacks unused to facing such elegance. Every whisper adds new color: that he was spotted dining in Glasgow's West End, that a luxury apartment is being prepared, that corporate sponsors are eager to capitalize on the glamour attached to his name. In the midst of all this, pundits on late night radio both laugh and lean forward, aware that stranger things have happened in football, where ambition sometimes outpaces logic and produces miracles. Rangers' history is rich with bold moves. Yet this feels like another dimension entirely, a potential coup to shake not only Scotland, but the footballing world. Some call it fantasy, others destiny, but no one can deny that the talk has stolen the headlines, eclipsing transfer gossip elsewhere and making even neutrals glance north with curiosity. As the murmur spreads into every corner of football culture, what lingers most is a sense of possibility. The idea that a player like Joao Felix could choose Rangers and in doing so alter perceptions that have been entrenched for decades. If confirmed, it would be a seismic moment, a signing that says Scottish football is not merely a stepping stone, but a stage where the brightest talents can perform and shine. Supporters prepare chants, journalists prepare headlines, and rivals prepare excuses. Yet for now, it remains a rumor with the heartbeat of truth pulsing ever stronger. In Glasgow's cafes, in offices, in classrooms, and in quiet conversations, the phrase repeats: Joao Felix is Rangers. Whether fact or fantasy, it already feels like a story etched into the folklore of the club, an echo that will not fade easily. And perhaps, just perhaps, when the doors of Ibrox open and the roar rises into the air, the sight awaiting the faithful will confirm that the whispers were never just whispers at all, but the sound of history written in royal blue. Greetings. Fans, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, as it's greatly appreciated by Rangers FC. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments section below. Until the next video, stay tuned.